Hi, I'm Ethan, 25, and last summer I learned what it really means to be the forgotten child. It happened on a blistering June afternoon, the kind of heat that melts your patience before you even leave the house. My parents had gathered everyone for my brother Ryan's big graduation barbecue. The backyard was done up like a car dealership's grand opening: banners, balloons, a folding table covered with "Congrats, graduate" plates, and a shiny red bow tied to something under a tarp at the end of the driveway. Ryan stood there pretending to be humble, while grinning so wide it looked painful. I already knew what was under the tarp. Everyone did. My parents had been dropping hints for weeks. He's worked so hard, we just want to give him a good start. My good start. After college was a bill for rent and a used coffee maker. His, apparently, came with horsepower. When they pulled off the tarp, there it was, a brand new $40,000 car gleaming in the sun. My mom squealed, my dad clapped him on the back, and Ryan shouted something like, "No way! Are you serious?" As if he hadn't already picked the color. The crowd, mostly family friends, cheered. Phones came out. Pictures. Hugs. My mom actually teared up, saying, "He deserves it." Then someone asked, "What did you get, Ethan?" That's when my dad pointed to an old mountain bike leaning against the fence. A bike with a flat tire. "He's more of a minimalist," Dad said, chuckling, like it was a joke. Everyone laughed. I didn't. The bike wasn't new. It was mine from high school, something I'd left in the garage years ago. They just dragged it out, wiped the dust off, and slapped a bow on it. I stood there holding a paper plate of lukewarm coleslaw, trying to look like it didn't matter. But my stomach twisted when Mom said, "You'll get your turn, sweetie. Right now it's Ryan's day." My turn? For what? Humiliation. The worst part wasn't the gift. It was the way they looked at me, like the reasonable one, the one who wouldn't make a scene. I'd been that guy my whole life. The peacekeeper. The fixer. The one who said, "It's fine," even when it wasn't. But that day something cracked. I handed my plate to a stranger, walked inside, and went upstairs to my old room, the one they turned into storage after I moved out. I sat on the edge of the bed surrounded by dusty boxes labeled Ryan's trophies and holiday decor, listening to the laughter outside. The sound made me feel small. Invisible. I looked out the window at Ryan posing for photos on the hood of his new car while my parents beamed like they just married him off to success. That's when the decision hit me, quiet and cold. I wasn't going to smile through it this time. I wasn't going to play the role of the grateful older son. I was done being the background character in my own family. So I packed a small duffel bag, a few clothes, my passport, my laptop, and left a short note on the dresser that said only, "Congratulations to Ryan. Don't wait up." Then I walked out the side door while the barbecue smoke still hung in the air, and no one noticed I was gone until the cake was already being cut. By the time they realized I was gone, I was already 3 towns away. I remember the sound of my phone vibrating in the cup holder like a trapped fly. "MOM, Dad, Ryan," lighting up one after another. I didn't pick up. I just drove. North, no destination. Windows down, heat blasting through, the smell of asphalt and summer grass hitting me like a new language. It wasn't exactly an escape, more like an uninvitation. I wasn't running from something. I was finally letting them live without me, just like they already had. The funny part? The car I was driving wasn't mine either. It was a 2006 Corolla that I'd borrowed from my friend Nolan when my own clunker died last month. The thing rattled like a tin can full of bolts, but it had one glorious feature: distance. Around midnight, I stopped at a rest area near a lake. Bought a watery coffee from a vending machine, sat on the hood, and stared at my reflection in the dark glass. 25, degree in hand, paying off loans while my brother just got a free launch into adulthood. You want to know what burns most about favoritism? It's not the money. It's that it rewires your brain. You start to see love as a transaction. Every hug becomes an investment. Every silence, an audit. When I was 8, my dad skipped my science fair to take Ryan to a soccer tryout. "He's got real potential, buddy," he said when I asked why. You'll understand one day. That was the template. Every "you'll understand" was code for "you'll settle for less." The next morning, I woke up to a dozen missed calls and 3 voicemails. The first was my mom, her voice high and brittle. "Ethan, where are you? You scared us half to death. Come home and stop being dramatic." The second was my dad. "Son, this isn't how grown men handle disappointment. Call us back." And the third, "Ryan. Bro, are you seriously mad about the car? You don't even like driving. Don't make it weird." That one made me laugh out loud in the parking lot. Don't make it weird. Yeah, okay. I spent the next few days drifting, a motel here, a diner there, my laptop on the passenger seat like a co-pilot. I worked remotely for a design firm, so as long as I had Wi-Fi, I could be anywhere. I didn't tell them that though. I let them think I'd vanished. Then on day 4, my aunt called. She's the only one in the family who's never treated me like a spare part. "Honey, are you safe?" she asked. "Yeah," I said. "Just out getting some air." She sighed. "Your mom's acting like you joined a cult. But between you and me, I get it. They went too far this time." Too far was polite. My parents had turned my adulthood into a cautionary tale for Ryan. Do it right so you don't end up like your brother. But here's the thing, sometimes the black sheep isn't lost. He just walked out of the fence. That night, I checked my email. Among the usual spam and work updates was a message from my dad with the subject line, "Let's talk like adults." The email itself was 3 sentences long. "Ethan, you've made your point. Come home before you embarrass yourself further. We can't keep lying to people about where you went." Dad. The word, lying, hit me like a sucker punch. They weren't worried about me. They were worried about appearances. So instead of replying, I forwarded the email to myself, added a note at the top that said keep receipts, and booked a long-term rental in a small lakeside town 2 hours away. No plan, no timeline. Just space, the kind you can breathe in. And as I unpacked my duffel into the tiny dresser that smelled like pine and freedom, I decided something simple. I wasn't going back until I stopped being the afterthought in my own story. 2 weeks later, the first crack in their perfect little facade showed up in my inbox. Subject line: "Urgent, please call us." Attached was a photo, my mom and dad standing beside Ryan's shiny red car, now crumpled at the front like an aluminum soda can. The caption said, "He's fine, but this is going to be expensive." Expensive. That was the word that finally made me laugh, a deep, bitter laugh that echoed around my rented cabin. I scrolled down and saw Dad's follow-up message. "We need help covering the repair deductible. You've always been responsible with money. Can you transfer something to us until the insurance clears? Let me get this straight. I vanish after you humiliate me, and your first outreach is a GoFundMe for my golden brother's car crash?" I didn't reply. But I did pour myself a drink and think about irony. Ryan had totaled his brand new car within 2 weeks, and somehow, it was still my problem to fix. Some things don't just run in families, they metastasize. The next day, my mom called. I finally picked up. "Ethan, thank God. We've been worried sick." "Really?" I said. "Because your last email was basically a bank request." She exhaled sharply. "You don't have to be cruel. It was an accident. He hit a light pole. The deductible's only $3,000. That's about the price of a used bike with a flat tire," I said. Silence. Then, "You're still upset about that?" "Ethan, it was a symbolic gift." "Oh, it was symbolic, all right." She tried shifting gears. "Listen, you know how your father is with money right now. We thought you'd want to help family." I said nothing. I just let her fill the air with excuses. She'd always been good at smoothing over Dad's favoritism, polishing dysfunction into something that looked like love. Finally, she sighed. "You can stay angry, but Ryan needs us right now." "Then help him," I said quietly. "You've had practice." And I hung up. That night, I sat by the lake watching the ripples of the dock lights, feeling the strangest calm. For the first time, Their emergencies weren't mine to solve. It felt foreign but clean. A week later, another email came. This one wasn't asking for money, it was an invitation. A peace offering disguised as family unity. We're having a small barbecue again this Saturday. Just family. Ryan wants to apologize. Please come home. I should have ignored it. But curiosity has teeth. I wanted to see how far they'd go to pretend nothing happened. So I went. When I pulled up to the house, the banner was gone, the car was gone, and so was any trace of their earlier triumph. Ryan was in the yard tossing a football, looking sheepish. He walked over and said, "Hey man. I messed up. That pole came out of nowhere." "Yeah," I said. "They tend to do that when you're looking at yourself in the mirror." He winced. "Come on, bro. I'm trying to make peace here." I looked past him at my parents on the porch. Mom smiled like she was hosting a reunion. Dad gave me that firm, fake polite nod. "Glad you made it," he said. "Family's family. Is that what this is?" I asked. "Family? Or a bailout meeting?" "Don't start," he muttered. "We're trying to move forward." "Move forward?" "You gave Ryan a new car and me a rusted bike, then called me immature when I left. And now that your little investment crashed, suddenly I'm the responsible son again?" Mom said softly. "Ethan, please." "No." I cut her off. "For once, you're going to hear this. I'm done being the backup plan. The fixer. The wallet. The invisible one. I don't owe you anything just because I stopped needing you first." The silence after that was nuclear. Ryan stared at the ground. Dad's jaw clenched like he was holding back an entire lecture about respect. Finally, I set my car keys on the porch rail. "Don't worry, I didn't crash mine. But I won't be parking it here again." Then I walked back to my car and drove off, calm, steady, free, while their perfect suburban world stood there smoking quietly behind me like the wreck Ryan never learned from. What I didn't know then was that walking away that night wasn't the end of it. It was just the halfway mark. Because 2 weeks later, I got a letter from a lawyer, with my name, my parents' names, and something that made my stomach drop. The envelope was thick, one of those cream-colored ones that screams formal trouble. The return address said Henderson and Shaw Family Law. My first thought was that maybe they were suing Ryan's insurance company or something. My second thought, the one that made my throat go dry, was why would a family lawyer be contacting me? Inside was a short letter that began politely, like a bomb wearing a tuxedo. "Dear Mr. Ethan Carter, we represent your parents, Daniel and Linda Carter, regarding the recent dispute over certain family property and financial obligations. They wish to formally notify you that you have been removed as the contingent beneficiary of their estate, effective immediately. Additionally, they request the return of the vehicle you are currently driving, which was purchased under your father's name 3 years ago and remains registered to him. Failure to comply within 14 days will result in legal recovery of said property." I just sat there staring at it, mouth open. First, I'd bought that car myself. I'd paid every damn installment. The registration had my dad's name only because I was 22, broke, and didn't have the credit score yet. Second, estate beneficiary? What estate? They weren't exactly billionaires. The most valuable thing they owned was their illusion of moral authority. Still, the message was clear. I hadn't just walked out, I'd been erased. I called the lawyer's office immediately, and to my surprise, one of the partners actually picked up. "Mr. Carter, yes, we're aware of the situation," he said dryly. "Your parents were quite insistent that this be handled professionally." "Professionally?" I snapped. "They're disowning me over a barbecue and a car accident," he sighed. "Look, off the record? I've seen worse. You might want to reach out directly before this gets uglier." But uglier was already the family's default setting. That night, I called my aunt again. She didn't sound shocked. "They're embarrassed, honey," she said. "Your dad told everyone at church that you ran off in a fit of jealousy. Now that you stood up to him, he's doubling down to save face. And my car?" She hesitated. "I think that's him trying to prove he still has power. You broke the narrative, Ethan." He's rewriting it. Her words stuck with me. You broke the narrative. Yeah, maybe I had. But if he thought paperwork could scare me back into submission, he'd forgotten who taught me persistence. Him. So, I started gathering receipts. Literally. Every payment, every bank transfer, every monthly car bill I'd made since the purchase. I printed them, highlighted them, and attached a copy of the title transfer request I'd filed months ago that he'd forgotten to sign. Then I sent a certified letter to the lawyer. To whom it may concern. The vehicle in question has been paid for entirely by me. Enclosed are 12 months of bank statements confirming this. If your client insists on pursuing ownership, I will be filing a claim for reimbursement and emotional damages related to malicious interference. Respectfully, Ethan Carter. A week passed. Then 2. Silence. Until one morning, my phone buzzed with a text from Ryan. Bro, what did you do? Dad's freaking out. The lawyer backed off, said you threatened to go scorched earth. I smiled. I hadn't yet. But knowing they believed I would was satisfying enough. A few days later, I got a call from an unknown number. It was my mom. Her voice was softer than usual, the kind she used when she wanted to sound maternal instead of manipulative. Ethan, honey, can we just stop this? It's tearing the family apart. I leaned back in my chair. You mean it's tearing your image apart? No, she said quickly. We miss you. Ryan misses you. Does he? Because last I heard, he was calling me jealous. Silence. Then, he's young. He didn't mean it. You know your father and I only want what's best for everyone. Do you? I asked. Because every time everyone wins, I lose. Her tone cracked. You can't keep punishing us, Ethan. I let out a slow breath. I'm not punishing you. I'm just not volunteering to be your convenient disappointment anymore. Then I hung up. That was the moment it really sank in. I wasn't the problem they needed to fix. I was the truth they couldn't control. And as fate would have it, that truth was about to explode wider than I ever planned, because a week later, I got a message from someone unexpected, a journalist. He wrote, Hi Ethan. I'm doing a local piece on family finance and inheritance disputes. Your name came up. Are you open to talking off the record? I didn't know how he got my name. But I did know one thing, if my parents wanted control of the story, they'd just handed the microphone to the wrong son. When that journalist's message hit my inbox, I almost deleted it. I didn't want to become a sideshow in some clickbait headline. Son disowned over barbecue and bike gift. But the more I thought about it, the more it felt poetic. My parents had built their lives on image, polished, suburban, carefully curated. Maybe the only way to end their performance was to drag the stage lights onto them. So I agreed to meet. His name was Caleb, early 30s, calm, the kind of guy who listens more than he talks. We met at a coffee shop near the lake where I'd been staying. I told him everything, the Tesla-level gift, the bike, the eviction by lawyer stunt. He didn't interrupt once. When I finished, he leaned forward and said, Do you want this story told, or do you want them to understand it? That hit me. Because deep down, I didn't want revenge. I wanted acknowledgement. I wanted my parents to admit they'd built a family where love was conditional and hierarchy was inherited, not earned. We talked for 2 hours. Caleb promised to run the story anonymously at first. A young man from the Midwest, disowned after his parents favored his sibling with a luxury car. Simple, honest, clean. A week later, the article dropped. It exploded online. The comments were merciless. Imagine humiliating one kid to celebrate another. These parents raised an entitled prince and a ghost. OP, if you're reading this, you deserve better. Within 24 hours, people had dug deep enough to find out who my family was anyway. The photos from the graduation party had been public on Facebook. Ryan's gleaming car, my parents' proud faces, the red bows shining like a confession. It spread fast. By day 2, Mom called, sobbing. How could you do this to us? She cried. I didn't, I said quietly. You did it to me. I just stopped hiding it for you. Dad called next. No hello, just fire. You made us a laughingstock. Do you know how this looks for my business? Yeah, I said. Like a man who bought one son a car and another silence. Ungrateful brat, he barked. I paid for my own car. I shot back. The one you tried to steal back. There was a long pause. Then he said something that stuck. You always needed to feel like a victim. That's when I laughed. Not bitterly, genuinely. No, Dad. I needed to feel like a son. He hung up. I thought that would be the end of it, but the story took on a life of its own. Local news outlets picked it up, calling it the graduation gift divide. Suddenly, I wasn't anonymous anymore. Reporters emailed. Podcasts wanted interviews. I declined them all except Caleb's follow-up. He asked, "What do you want people to take from this?" I thought for a while before answering. That respect is earned by how you treat the quiet one, not the loud one. Families break in silence long before they explode in public. After that, I went off-grid for a bit. Deleted social media. Changed my number. The noise faded eventually, like any storm. But something unexpected came with the quiet peace. About a month later, I got a letter, handwritten, shaky penmanship I hadn't seen since childhood. Mom. Ethan. I don't know if you'll ever read this, but I need you to know something. The car was your father's idea. I went along because I thought keeping the peace was love. It wasn't. I see that now. Ryan's been humbled by everything. He lost his job after the story went viral. He wants to reach out, but I told him to wait until you're ready. I miss you. Not the idea of you, you. Love, Mom. I read it twice. Then a third time. It didn't fix everything, but it cracked something open that had been locked for years. The possibility of real honesty. I didn't write back immediately. I needed to be sure I wasn't stepping back into the same script. But a few weeks later, I drove to the old neighborhood. The red bow was long gone, the house smaller than I remembered. Ryan's car, or what was left of it, sat rusting under a tarp at the edge of the driveway, poetic justice parked in plain sight. He came outside when he saw me. No smirk this time. Just a tired nod. Hey, he said. Hey. We stood there awkwardly until he blurted. You were right, man. About all of it. I didn't get it until it all blew up. Do they hate me? I asked. He shook his head. They hate the mirror you held up. We talked for hours, about childhood, pressure, favoritism, all the invisible debts love sometimes demands. When I finally drove away, the air felt lighter, like the story had finally exhaled. That night, back at the lake, I wrote one last message to Caleb. Thanks for helping me tell it. The truth didn't ruin my family. It saved what was left of it. Then I closed my laptop, stepped onto the porch, and looked out at the dark water. Somewhere behind me, my old life was still smoldering, but out here it was quiet, just the wind and the slow ripple of freedom. People say family is forever. Maybe that's true. But what they don't tell you is, forever doesn't mean you have to stay. Sometimes, walking away is the way home.